In this video, I want to give you some quick and easy tips for looking after your carp care kit, looking after the carp, and looking after yourself this summer. Right, so my first tip then would be dip tanks. Now most, if not all fisheries should have them, and if they do, then I thoroughly recommend dipping your gear upon arrival. Now that is going to stop any sort of diseases, any nasties being transferred from fishery to fishery, from your sort of landing net, your sling, your retainers and your mats. So thoroughly recommend getting them in there, giving them a good washing off before you even start your session. Not only that, if you can, it is well worth dipping them at the end as well, just so that you can be 100% safe and not sorry. My next tip would be organised. Now you don't want to be faffing around once you've landed a fish, having the fish sort of captive too long in the margin there, and have to run around trying to find 101 things. So by this, what do I mean? So I am talking having a sort of towel to hand, your scales, a bucket ready to fill up with some fresh water. Down here I've got the pocket on my mat right wide open. I don't want to be fighting with a zip trying to get to any of my carp care kit. Obviously I've got my mat all nicely laid out, got my sling, my retainer sort of on top if I want to weigh a fish, if it's of any decent size. Not only that, I've also got my phone mounted on a bank stick ready to take any self takes, really quick and easy. Everything is to hand, and there's not a single point of unhooking or sorting out this fish that I need to get up, move away from the fish and get anything out of a rucksack or my bivvy. Everything is there, so just make sure you are super organised and ready to deal with the fish once it's on the bank. Next tip, make sure you have some form of water bucket next to your unhooking mat. Don't fill it up at the start of your session, just make sure you have it there to hand. Once you've landed a fish and it's resting in the net, go and grab your bucket and just get a bucket full of water and put it down next to your mat. If you do this too early into your session, the water in this bucket is going to be absolutely roasting and going to be really uncomfortable for the carp when you're pouring it over them, doing the complete opposite of when you're just trying to water them and cool them and just refresh them with some water as you're trying to unhook them and do your sort of catch pictures. So make sure you've got a bucket, but don't fill it up straight away. Leave it until you've got the fish resting in the net, and that will keep the fish nice and cool and calm as you're trying to get your catch pictures. Next tip then, as like the water in your bucket, your net and your sling or your weigh sling or your retainer or whatever you've got down there can become absolutely roasting hot when it is just sat there like so in the summer's heat. So if you can, stick it in a shaded area. But if like me, out on session this weekend, there is literally no shade at all. So what I can do is literally just flip it over, just turn it upside down. That way the area that you're going to be placing the fish onto is not going to be scorching hot before you put the fish onto it. Once I've actually caught a fish, I can just leave it in the margin for a minute. I'll flip me mat back over. I'll get me retainer on top like so, and as you can see, it is nearly bone dry. So what I'll do is just get that bucket, go and grab some fresh water. I'll do one for the retainer and the mat, make sure that's absolutely soaking wet through, and then I'll go and fill it up again, ready for when I bring the fish over and do the unhooking and my pictures. So with the imaginary fish dealt with over on my mat, what I'll do is carry it down to the water's edge in my retainer. Then what I'll do is essentially just allow it to sort of stay upright. So imagine there's a fish inside there, I've just lowered it into the margins. I'll reach down with both hands, supporting one under the tummy and one sort of just gripping hold of the tail. You don't need to grab hard, but just enough so that you're holding on to its tail. Until you start to feel it sort of kick, you just want to keep the fish upright, allow it to sort of get its breath back and take off and swim away back to fight another day. But just lowering it into the retainer just gives it a little bit of comfort, allows you to, like I say, support its body as it gets its breath back. I like to just, like I say, hold the wrist of the tail until I can feel it kick in. It's got its strength, it's got its energy back, and it will just make its way out of the retainer back to its watery home. Well, summer can actually be a really sort of fatiguing and fatal time of year for carp. Now, carp can spawn a number of times throughout the summer, and you will find them, when you find them doing it, you'll know about it. You can, like I say, you'll find them up against all the margins, up against sort of islands, snags, lilies, weed beds, you name it. As they start to, you know, allow the eggs to disperse and the males come in and sort of fertilize them, etc. You'll pretty much know when it's happening. It's a pretty aggressive sort of activity, and it really does, like I say, leave the carp feeling really fatigued, and they do kind of just then switch off for a couple of weeks as well. So if you see any of these signs, I don't find it sort of acceptable to sort of fish for you know, spawning carp. I really do believe that we should just pack down and leave them to it. You know, there can be, like I say, fatalities because it is such an aggressive activity, so angling pressure on top of spawning carp, you know, really shouldn't be acceptable. I would make sure you inform the venue owner or the bailiff that obviously you've seen the spawning activity, and they will either close areas of the lake, or even better still, just close the lake completely until they feel the time is right to reopen. Just remember, if we treat these carp with the respect that they deserve, they will still be there to fight another day. So get yourself off home, get yourself a barbecue, get yourself a beer, put your feet up, have a good tackle sort out, and enjoy a couple of weeks break, recharge your batteries, ready to get back at them. So whilst I was on the topic of spawning, now is the time to make sure that you have got some form of carp care treatment. Now, spawning, as I said, is quite aggressive. They brush themselves up against all manner of sort of bankside vegetation, snags, lilies, weed, you name it. They're pretty much up against it and going about their business. So obviously that can lead to cuts, sores, all sorts of body damage. So making sure you've got a bottle of the good stuff to treat any wounds when you've got them back, when you've got them on the mat, will make sure when you put them back, they will be going back in better condition than what they come out in, ready to go and fight another day. So my preferred choice of carp care is the propolis. Now, this is a natural type treatment. What you can do is just dab the wound with a little cloth or a towel just to dry it off, then apply a few drops of this to the wound itself. And what you want to do is just cup some water from your water bucket and just splash it onto the propolis whilst it's on the carp's body. What you'll see, that turns like a whitey creamy colour, and that is then created a seal over the wound. Now, how long that stays on there for, I don't really know, but knowing that that fish has gone back in better condition, treated whilst it's been on my mat, then I know that I've done all I can to make sure that fish can go and fight another day. So like I say, make sure you go and get yourself some form of carp care treatment just to make sure that these fish are still there for everybody else to catch. My last tip then is it's all well and good looking after the carp, but you've got to make sure you look after yourself as well. So make sure you take some time to get in the bivvy or the brolly, out the way of the heat of the sun, and just keep yourself in the shade. If you can see over my shoulder, if your bivvy or brolly has got a sort of window with a mesh type fabric in it, get that zipped right open, allow some airflow through your bivvy. There's nothing worse than sitting inside, you know, a bit of shaded area, but it's all stuffy, stinks, and it's just minging stale air. So yeah, get the windows open, allow that airflow to come through, and that'll just cool you down as well. Make sure you wear a hat, keep that sun off your head. If, like me, your hair is rapidly disappearing, then a hat is a must. The last thing you want is that heat, the sun beating down to your head as you stood there sort of floater fishing and not really paying attention, because yeah, you will suffer and you will have headaches and whatever else. So make sure you got a hat on. Glasses, so you've got either Polaroids or just your sunglasses that you wear normally. Again, if you just stood there floater fishing or whatever else, the sun's rays coming down off the water, beating into your eyes, again, is not going to do you any good. You'll be going to bed, you know, with a massive headache and whatever else. So make sure that you've got a pair of sunglasses to hand, because that will just help protect your eyes and the glare coming off the water. Make sure you have plenty to drink. Now there's nothing worse, like I say, than standing out there in the heat of the day and not taking on enough liquids. So make sure you have plenty of drinks breaks. The same with food as well. You don't have to go, you know, munching down a whole meal, but just make sure you're eating and drinking, just so that you can keep your energy levels up and your body hydrated. Lastly, don't forget the sunscreen. Now you would have seen from Corda videos and obviously Danny Fairbrass and what he's been through recently because of the lack of the use of sun cream. So make sure you're applying that as and when you can. If you're feeling yourself start to burn, go and get some more on. You know, learn from his mistakes, and as he quite rightly says in his own videos, you know, he wants not this to be a sympathy vote, he wants it to be an educational piece. Get out there and use the sunscreen that is available, because yeah, you want to be safe and not sorry, and ending up in an unfortunate circumstances like Danny has had to go through. So where you can, keep that sunscreen going on and keep yourself safe. And then lastly, don't forget to just recharge the batteries. It doesn't have to be 100 miles per hour all the time. We can just sit in the bivvy for an hour, take some time out. If you feel like you need to have a little nap in the afternoon because of the sheer heat of the summer, go and have a lay down. There is absolutely no reason why you have to be out there pushing yourself every single minute and making yourself ill. So if you need to take a time out to recharge, go and do it. Get yourself in the shade, get yourself cool, and take some time out. But either way, make sure you enjoy your summer's fishing, look after yourselves, catch loads of carp, and I'll catch up with you again soon.